Good morning. Good. Lots of energy in the room. I'm glad you're busy having conversations with each other. That's really important. You connect as part of the community. My name is Don Frueh. If you're visiting and want to know who's up here, I'm the pastor at Parkrose Community United Church of Christ. And we're so glad you're with us today on this interesting summer day. This has been an interesting summer. We shall see where it winds up, but enjoy the coolness while we have it. As we gather, we offer respects here, maybe, to the ancestors and descendants of the original people of this land. We invoke their presence as we welcome everyone, whoever you are, and wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. I invite you to stand as you're able and join in our opening our gathering songs. First of all, Come My People.
Stand
please take a moment and read those.
Like being patient and okay,
we respond together. We are ready to take action whenever and wherever we see injustice. Welcome. Nikki volunteered to sing a very prophetic song, The Sound of Silence. I'd like to invite the young folks to come join me in the front while we sing our song, Welcoming Day. hot today? It's really hot outside, isn't it? There you go. Well, I want to talk to you about truth today. That's kind of a big thing to think about when you're young, but I want to share this with you first.
Did you apply my makeup?
No.
Then what's on your face?
Cupcake?
It's cupcakes? We don't even have any cupcakes. Were you in my makeup?
No.
You didn't get my makeup.
No. It was paint. That's from my paint in my pumpkin.
You were painting your pumpkin?
Yes.
I think you got my makeup.
No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. That was my pumpkin.
Your pumpkin did it?
Yes, and it spit this paint at me.
The pumpkin spit the paint at you.
Yes. And this one here.
The pumpkin scribbled on your face?
Yes. And look more.
Well, what are we going to do with the pumpkin?
Kill it?
Because I think you got my makeup.
No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. That was the pumpkin.
The pumpkin got it, not you.
No. It was one thing that I was killing me.
Look at me. I think you got my makeup and you're lying.
No. I didn't get in my makeup.
No, you got my makeup.
No, I didn't get in your makeup. A pumpkin that spit at me.
The pumpkin spit at you?
Yes. I didn't get in your makeup.
I'm going to go look at my makeup.
No.
So, how many of you have done something like that? Yeah. Usually the answer is, I don't know. When I was your age, my mother would come, there were 3 of us at that time, soon to be 4 of us, and she'd say, I'm not even going to ask because I know nobody did it. So, the truth is when you say what's really going on. And it's hard when you're put on the spot, especially by your mom and dad. Mom, dad, and dad. When they ask you a specific question, you don't want to get in trouble, so you can lie. But it's hard to tell the truth, and it's hard to know when everybody else is telling the truth. So think about that this week, what it means to tell the truth, and what it means to find out what's the truth. Okay? All right? Let's have a prayer. Dear God, we're thankful for everything you give us. Help us to be truth seekers, to find the truth in everything we do. Amen. Amen. All right. I think you can go to class in the nursery. Our Now Testament for this morning is from a modern day prophet, Toni Morrison, whom we lost last week. This particular, okay? This one. Toni Morrison, in her writing, was able to tell the truth, which is hard for many of us to hear, especially those of us who are white. So this is a passage from her book, Home, which she's reading herself.
This is the main character reminiscing about his home. Lotus, Georgia is the worst place in the world, worse than any battlefield. At least on the field, there is a goal, excitement, daring, and some chance of winning, along with many chances of losing. Death is a sure thing, but life is just as certain. Problem is, you can't know in advance. And Lotus, you did know in advance, since there was no future, just long stretches of killing time. There was no goal other than breathing, nothing to win, save for somebody else's quiet death, nothing to survive or worth surviving for. If not for my two friends, I would have suffocated by the time I was 12. They, along with my little sister, kept the indifference of parents, the hatefulness of grandparents, and afterthought. Nobody in Otis knew anything or wanted to learn anything. It sure didn't look like any place you want to be. Maybe 100 or so people in some 50 spread out rickety houses, nothing to do but mindless work in fields you didn't own, couldn't own, and wouldn't own if you had another choice. My family was content, or maybe just hopeless, living that way. I understand, having been run out of one town, any other that offered safety and the peace of sleeping through the night and not waking up with a rifle in your face was more than enough. But it was much less than enough for me. You never lived there, so you don't know what it was like. Any kid who had a mind would lose it. Was I supposed to be happy with a little quick sex without love every now and then? Maybe some accidental or planned mischief? Could marbles, fishing, baseball, and shooting rabbits be reasons to get out of bed in the morning? You know it wasn't. Mike, Stuff, and me couldn't wait to get out and away, far away. Thank the Lord for the Army. I don't miss anything about that place except the stars. Only my sister in trouble could force me to even think about going in that direction. Don't paint me as some enthusiastic hero. I had to go, but I dreaded it.
And remain seated as we sing our next song, Change My Heart, O God.
Habakkuk 1. verses 2 to 4 from the New International Version. The prophet bemoans the state of his world. How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Or cry out to you violence, but you do not save? Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? Destruction and violence are before me. There is strife and conflict abounds. Therefore the law is paralyzed and justice never prevails. The wicked hem in the righteous, so that justice is perverted.
Thank you. Habakkuk is one of those minor prophets in the Bible. It's a very short book. There are only 3 chapters. And it has the most wonderful name, Habakkuk. Habakkuk lived in the 7th century BCE. And his book is mainly set up as a series of complaints, 2 major complaints from Habakkuk, and then God's response to each of those complaints. It's unusual for a prophet in the Bible to have this conversation with God and not with the people whom the prophet believes are doing wrong things. But this one is a very internalized discussion between the prophet and God. And as I read the first chapter of Habakkuk, especially these first few verses, I thought, oh my gosh, how could anything be more pertinent than this? It says a lot about the human condition and the ongoingness of our fight for justice. This was almost, 2,500 years ago. And we're still fighting some of those same battles. And yet we fight them. We stand up for them. So Habakkuk, I hope you get the reading the Times. Because it's true, right?
Yes.
It's true. What appears on the newspaper is what's going on. Usually. All right, Habakkuk, this conversation with God in confusion and crisis. And what many people label this book is that it's a time of trusting God in times of crisis, of being aware that God is with us even and especially at the worst possible times. Now, Habakkuk lived around 600 BCE. Some say he was active in 612, but through this period. And that was the time, his time was that Israel was being threatened by Babylon. And we know that Israel and the whole Middle East is this land-taking process where one group of people takes land from another one. Then another one comes and takes it from them, and another one comes and takes it from them. And the Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar came to Israel, kidnapped the cream of the crop of the Israeli population and took them back to Babylon, and then destroyed the temple in 587 and 586. So this is the time that Habakkuk was talking about. There was lots of oppression from an outside enemy and lots of crisis among the people living, the Israelites living in Israel. And the bottom line for Habakkuk is that justice has been perverted. Justice is perverted. It's not happening. And why, oh God, is that happening to us? Now, God's response, we're not going to go into a lot today, but God's response is a little bit odd sounding to us unless you look at the whole context. But God is essentially replying to Habakkuk that, this is what happens when these particular things happen. It's going to be hard, it's going to be bad, and we have to find a way. So, I love this quote from MLK, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Amen.
And Martin Luther King Jr. has been suggested as one of the prophets, modern day prophets that we think about. Remember, I asked you to give me your ideas. I'm still open to hearing those from you. And you'll find them recognized at various parts of the service. But this statement, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, is really true. And we are called to learn what is true in order to do what is right.
Right.
When I was talking with the young folks about truth, we especially live in a time when you can't trust what you read, especially in the internet,
Yes.
as truth. We are called to do our research. We are called to learn what is true. There's a number of ways to do that. But you can't just take face value. And this is something that we talk about a lot in Bible study. The Bible, you can't just take at face value. You have to dig underneath the words on the page to see what was going on and understand what those words could mean for the people who were hearing it. This business about learning what is true, as I was putting this message together, seemed to me to be something we don't talk about a lot. We hear a lot about fake news. But we have to figure out what's true.
Yeah.
We can't trust somebody else to tell us the truth. We have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
Another one of the suggested prophets, modern day prophets, is William Barber, Reverend Dr. William Barber, who formed the Poor People's Movement. He is an ordained minister in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, which is our sister denomination. We do lots of things together with the disciples. And William Barber said this: we need a Poor People's Campaign for moral renewal, revival, to help us become the nation we've not yet been. And this is a piece of truth, I think, that we have been denied. It's not been made clear to us, and Toni Morrison also makes this clear. This wonderful country that we have built up in our mind has always had moral issues from day one, when the Pilgrims arrived and killed the natives. From day one. And this is a struggle that we're called to be in today, 2019. And we have to find a way that we can not just offer thoughts and prayers. We do that, but we have to also do something. We are called to do something, not just watch it all play out in front of our faces.
Amen.
So, my friends, embrace your prophetic calling. What can we do to be prophetic in our time? And one thing that I want to share with you as a result of the service last Sunday, the impassioned plea from Barbara Simpson to do something about gun violence. We have now created, with at least one co-sponsor, probably 2 or 3 more, a resolution to go to the Central Pacific Conference annual gathering at the end of September that asks the church to call on Congress and legislators everywhere to do something about the health crisis that gun violence is, about background checks, licensing, that kind of thing, and about stopping the sale of assault weapons that are weapons of war. So our council unanimously approved the draft. So we are on the way, my friends. That's one thing we can do.
Amen.
I was glad to see several of you at the vigil at Augustana Lutheran Church on Tuesday, which is a very public way. Several people have said to me, Don, I saw you on TV. That's a good thing.
Yes.
I've always said that I kind of wanted to get arrested sometimes. It's a badge of honor. I think I'm past that. But who knows? Who knows? If I'm standing up for something that I believe God has called me to stand for,
Amen.
arrest me.
Amen.
Jesus paid the ultimate price of death. I could be arrested. Anyway, being public about what we believe and how we ask others to be involved in stopping injustice. It's not just about what we do in this room. And in fact, it's even more about what we do when we go out that door.
Amen.
So my friends, I ask you to think about what your prophetic calling is and embrace it.
Amen.
Does anybody have any ideas they want to share now? What are you called to
Share love and peace.
do? To share love and peace.
I'm called to teach the history of the truth.
Help teach the history, the truth about history. Yeah. All right. Think about it. This is your homework lesson. Determine what your prophetic call is, because you too can be prophets, my friend.
Amen.
You can. In the words of Rodney. One of the simpler ways that we can be involved in doing prophetic work in the world is by giving of our own abundance so that we can support actions and acts that happen beyond the doors of this church. Our ushers will now receive the offering.
Number 9.
the act of prayer, of connecting with God, is something that we do in many different ways. And here, now, we ask you to share the prayers you bring with the congregation. I wanted to start by asking prayers for Thelma Nance, who's moved to an assisted living facility with a higher level of care. Thelma's experiencing some difficulties now. Pray for Thelma, who's been a light among us for a very long time. God of love.
I'd like to give a prayer of thanks. My grandson was diagnosed with cancer last week. He had his surgery, and they believe that they have it all. So we pray that he's going to be well.
Betty offers a prayer of thanksgiving for a successful surgery on her grandson's cancer. God of love.
Thank you for your presence. Prayers for my brother-in-law, Joe Boucher, who has been in the hospital since Tuesday with sepsis.
Sharon asks prayers for her brother-in-law, Joe, who's been in the hospital with sepsis since Tuesday. Prayers for Joe and for all those who are attending him in the hospital. God of love.
Thank you for your presence.
Prayers of thanks. Got to spend time with my Uncle Dale, who is my dad's brother. Dad passed many, many years ago, but he told me some stories I never knew, and it was a great time. Still miss my dad wholeheartedly, but it was good to talk about him and hear about his youth.
Trav offers prayers of thanksgiving for being able to spend time with his Uncle Dale and talk about his dad. God of love.
Thank you for your presence.
Prayers of sympathy and for my aunt's family. My aunt passed on Friday. She's 94 years old. Aunt Dorothy. And she's my mother's closest sister. So it pains me in a couple of ways.
Cammie asks prayers for the family of her Aunt Dorothy, who passed at age 94 on Friday. And Dorothy was the closest sibling to her mother, to Cammie's mother. And we prayed for Joyce, who's having some issues with dementia. And prayers for the whole family, that you can grieve the passing of your aunt and find a way forward. God of love.
Prayers for my daughter Debbie's fiance, Mike, who has been in the hospital for a week now with diverticulitis, and every step seems to be more complicated than
What's his name?
Mike.
Mike. Anne asks prayers for her daughter Debbie's fiance, Mike, who's been in the hospital with diverticulitis for a whole week. Prayers again for those who attend him that they can find an answer to resolve this situation. God of love.
Thank you for your presence.
Diane?
I ask prayers for a long ongoing situation in our neighborhood since December. I have asked prayers for Scrapper Mike, who has occupied the neighborhood till about a week ago, with a large community of people who bring him things and puts them in his big thing on wheels. I asked for a location for him to do his business. He's very hardworking. I asked for the drug part of this whole situation to end and people just work. There be a way that people can work and not be addicted to drugs. Specifically, I asked for love and prayers for Mike.
I asked prayers for Scrapper Mike, who has lived in her neighborhood, along with a whole lot of other scrapper folks who have collected all kinds of things that they can get the scrap metal off of. Prayers for Mike as he's left the neighborhood and that he find a place to do his business, and that the drug complications that happen when people use drugs around that work that find a resolution. God of love.
Prayers for my employee Grant and his whole family. His son Wyatt has been struggling for several months with a severe disease called aplastic anemia. It's life-threatening. And this week he's going to be getting a bone marrow transplant, which should hopefully lead to recovery, but it's going to be a long road. So prayers and healing for them.
Grant is his name?
Grant.
Grant. Ellie asked prayers for her nephew. Employee. The son of her fellow employee, Grant, who has suffered from aplastic anemia, is getting a bone marrow transplant this week. Prayers again for Grant and for his family and for all those who will attend him in the hospital. God of love. Yes.
Lucy and I our granddaughter was involved in a minor car accident here this week, but she was shaken up a little bit, but she's good to go, and we're grateful that she's okay.
Lucy and Tubb are grateful that granddaughter Victoria, who was in a minor car accident, is okay, and prayers of thanks for that. God of love.
My condolences for Carrie, and I love each and every one of y'all. My prayers are with y'all. I don't get put down on anything, but yesterday was a wonderful movie that Jan presented to us yesterday, and it was letting us know about the Indians and how, you know, their oppression that still goes on in this country.
Yes. Rodney offers prayers of thanksgiving for many folks in the congregation, and especially for those who help us learn what the truth is. God of love. Let us pray together. Holy One, we open ourselves to you in this moment, making ourselves vulnerable not just to you, but to our community. We ask you to be with those we've named aloud, as well as all those that we hold in our hearts and minds. May they feel your presence in real ways. And may we be signs of that presence for everyone. We pray for our world, which is broken and hurting in so many different ways. Help us to come together to find ways that we can treat each other like human beings and not like enemies. Because indeed we are connected. We are all related. We pray for those who live on our city streets that they can find shelter and food, and most important, relationship. And once again, may we be part of that healing for them. And God, we ask you to be with us as we consider ways that we can be prophetic in our place and time. Help us to find courage and strength to speak truth to power and to stand in solidarity with those who are oppressed and who suffer from injustice. Because in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. A sentiment which Jesus taught us quite clearly. We ask all these things in his name, our brother and teacher, who taught us to pray together in these words from the Gospel of Luke. Abba, God, help us to honor your name. Come and set up your kingdom. Give us each day the food we need. Forgive our sins, as we forgive everyone who has done wrong to us. And keep us from being tempted. Amen. Our peace moment today, for our peace moment today, I'd like to lift up a particular arm of Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon. Ecumenical Ministries is an incredible organization of many different denominations and also many different faiths. It's all but in name an interfaith organization. And the advocacy advocacy and action team for Ecumenical Ministries does the work of justice in our state. And and the nation. It's an important work that they do. And I'd like to lift them up as people who work for peace in our day and time. There are announcements on the back of your program. Immediately after worship, about 11:15, safety and security video in the Mariners room. This will help us understand information we received through those of our congregation who attended a special session, One Cop, One Precinct initiative. So they will show a video and have a conversation about that. The council and finance meetings are not happening today. August was the month we take off for those. Next Sunday, there's a pickup choir again. So if you want to sing one Sunday without committing to a whole season, but you just might commit to a whole season, meet at 9 in the Mariners room next Sunday. Also, tomorrow night is the Square Rivers dinner at Bridge City Tap Room. Talk to Lucy if you want to go so she can get a count on that. Wednesday is the fellowship breakfast at the old Francis Xavier's on 181st, which is now Elmer's. Other announcements that need to be made? Yes?
The Oktoberfest volunteer meeting isn't going to happen.
Is not going to happen.
Not going to happen this morning because of that.
All right. Oktoberfest volunteer meeting will happen at some other time. But if you have ideas, talk to Kim.
Yeah, vegetables available.
Vegetables, our very own farmers market is active in the breezeway, so help yourself and leave whatever you can to help fund our winter dinners. All right?
This time coming up. I just have a little tickler announcement. I am hosting a special lunch after the service next week. So I'm hoping that you're planning on coming to be spiritually filled and that you will stay and be physically nourished after. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Julia. All right, let's stand as you're able and sing our closing song, God of Grace and God of Glory.
This is what it is actually thinking. So as soon as the song's done, then it'll flash That's the music place up there.
God of grace and God of glory, on your people, for your crown, your rich church is soaring, great is the continues. We didn't just go to church.
We are the church.
Go in peace and justice and live in love.
Amen.
Amen.